So the Angoff method is the most flexible of the published standard setting methods. It's been around a long time. And what happens is subject matter experts, or SMEs for short, develop a mental image of the minimally competent borderline candidate. And it's essential that people come together when they do an Angoff to talk about this, because this is an important part. And we're going to talk a bit more about the minimally competent borderline candidate, or some people shorten it as the McBick. Then the SMEs rate whether a McBick will get each item correct. And the key part is will get, not should get. Should changes the language where we feel like, oh, they should get all these questions right. But the will is, what will they for sure, the barely competent candidate, what will they get correct? And a more complicated version of the Angoff is you actually estimate what percentage of McBicks would get an item correct. One of the key things, and this is why it has to be done as a group in person, is you pause frequently to check the calibration. So after a few items, if you have one subject matter expert who's a hawk and saying everybody's going to get all these questions correct, or a dove, no one's going to get these questions correct, you need to talk as a group and then revisit it. And the other thing that can also help, and should be done if you have it, is to provide historical data to recalibrate. Because you could have a group who thinks they have the mental image together, they're going through it, they're generally agreeing, and then they discover that their Angoff cut score would cause half the class to fail based on historical data. So this is essentially, you have to look at historical data to see how they performed on these items. So what is the minimally competent borderline candidate, or the McBick? It's not the superstar candidate, it's not a clear-cut fail. It's the person who's just barely able to go on to the next level of training. And they know the critical objectives, the absolute must-knows, but they're still learning others. So here's an example of an Angoff. You have 3 different subject matter experts, Dr. Mean, Dr. Dove, Dr. Hawk, and Mean, as you can tell, is not, he's mean, he's average. And so you've got a 5-item exam. Obviously, this is a simplified model. A 1 in the table means that SME thought the just barely competent student would get it right. A 0 means they thought he'd get it wrong. And as you can see here, by going down the columns, you can get a sense of their leniency or stringency. Okay, so Dr. Dove doesn't seem to think anybody would get them right, or less often than Dr. Hawk. Then you average the items this way to see what percentage would actually get an item correct. And you go down, and then you overall average these, and you'd get a cut score of 60%, or 3 out of 5. Now, this is obviously a very simplified model. So who are your subject matter experts? Again, if it's a very low-stakes assessment, you sometimes just have the one person running it do it. Anything a little higher stakes, you probably have a test committee, a group of experts. And again, these should be people who know the expectations of a student at that level. Again, calibration is essential to decrease the inter-rater variability among your subject matter experts.